Let's go to Jan Beekes.
And Gary, Mauricio Gugelmin today starts from the pole, but of course he had a little bit of help. He was able to qualify in the dry qualifying group yesterday before the rains came. But his time was so impressive, many people felt that he would have stayed on the pole position whether it was wet or dry. Now, if you do have guys like Paul Tracy, they're going to make big moves from the back of the pack. Mauricio is going to be very thankful he has a clean look into turn one. Paul?
Well, here is the way they qualified. Mauricio Gugelmin on the pole, but the first 13 of this grid qualified in the dry. The back half of the field qualified in the wet. Now, the first 10 starters represent a total of 11 Champ Car race wins. The last 10 represent 85 wins. And in all, 10 drivers have not won. It's an amazing grid that we have lined up here. Parker?
Look at the numbers. 180 miles an hour top speed, minimum 55 miles per hour. They have to go 33 to 34 laps on the two stops to make it a two-stop race.
And of course, the weather continues to be a story this weekend. They'll race in the rain, even in a driving downpour. They cannot race if lightning would suddenly appear in the area. There is a very good chance of thunderstorms here at the Burke Lakefront Airport. There is your front row. Mauricio Gugelmin to the left, Adrian Fernandez on the right. What an unusual lineup this is. They make the turn that should bring them to the flag, and goodness knows what we're about to see. Green flag is out. They spread wide for the first turn. Big trail of brakes. Some people wisely trying to pick the widest spot they can, and guess what? At least 4 cars off immediately. Tony Kanaan is off. That may have been PT pulling away. There's Patrick Carpentier and Michel Jourdain Jr. Here comes the rest of the field now working over near the lakeside. Those clouds overhead. And they are going to go. We were wondering about it. They're going to go full course yellow. Kenny Breck trying to move his way up, but Max Wilson, wow, what a good move to put him to the front.
Amazing, this rookie with the RCO Blair team. Remember, they had...
There's the defending champion. He just spun after the yellow came out.
Well, that's something that's a little embarrassing on the opening lap. Here we see Carpentier and Jourdain.
They're both dead in the water just off the edge of the first turn. That's the reason for the full course yellow. Look at this start.
You can see a wheel banging right at the front there with Gidley. Gets run into. You can see then Kanaan off, Carpentier, Jourdain. Zanardi down the inside. There's the wheel banging. Big clip by Oriol Servia.
Here was Kenny Breck as he was moving up in the field for the start.
See the parts fly off the left side of the screen.
It looked, though, like Brian Herta was making a way big, wide, sweeping move. Locked the brakes. Thought he was clear of trouble.
Wisely took the grass to avoid the congestion on the inside.
Bruno Junqueira further back in the field.
Back in 16th spot, going around the outside. Gets tapped from behind right there.
Waits for everybody else to just slide off, and then on he goes. So the kart safety team with Patrick Carpentier, they're going to try to get him going, but they're going to get him out of the car first. Maybe there's more to it than that. And Michel Jourdain Jr. is under power and trying to catch up with the rest of the field. So not a surprise on the start, but a great move by rookie Max Wilson. A year-old engine, and he drives right to the front. Welcome back to the Burke Lakefront Airport. We're still under a full course caution. Max Wilson is the leader. Our first Toyota Spotlight is going to take a look at turn one on this track. It's been pretty difficult in years past as well. 1994, you're riding here with Michael Andretti. Then in 1998, again the first lap. Andre Ribeiro involved, spinning off to the inside. And then, of course, 2000. And that brings us up to today, which, given the composition of the field, in a way, it's almost surprising there weren't more of.
Very much so. Fortunately, those 4 cars slid off the outside. There was some light contact on the way in between other cars, but didn't affect them.
So under the full course caution, with a number of cars deciding to go into the pits, here are the current standings. See Paul Tracy back there. He was one of those that went into the pits to top off. He had made a brave, bold statement. He was going to pass 15 on the start. He didn't do that. Matter of fact, he went up 5 positions, but those were all cars that went off the track. Let's go to Gary Gerould. Moreno may have a problem, by the way, Gary.
We'll check on that, but we think it's that extra quart of oil they add on the Toyota power plants that sometimes create smoke that we see at the top. Here's Patrick Carpentier, who's just come back in. Tell us what you were able to see and what obviously you were unable to avoid.
Yeah, it's too bad. You know, we went to start. My start was pretty good, and I think it was Tony that turned in inside of me, and I was going to turn in behind him, and Servio came in like, I don't know how many spots he wanted to make, and just came in really hot inside. When I saw him, I moved a little bit, and he went against me, and I hit Tony, and he squeezed me between Tony and himself, and I guess he could have kept going, but stopped our race.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Paul?
Well, they're going to go green this time by. There's Kenny Brack. Parker, he got a great start. Started back in the field in 17th, and by the end of the first lap, he was scored 8th.
Yeah, it was an awesome start. You can see him picking off cars as he goes way down the inside, protects the apex, avoids this problem out to the left side, gets a good runoff here, and then just before the yellow came out, you can see he picks off one, another one. He actually gets a couple more cars coming through the 3-4 complex and then down to turn 5. Brilliant Kenny Brack opening lap.
So 2 different philosophies, really. Brian Herta swings way wide, hoping to avoid the situation, but remembering on a tight turn, they tend to slide off to the outside. Brack just goes right down the inside, and it pays off for him. We are ready to go green. It will be Wilson, Tagliani, Gidley, first, second, and third, as they come back to the flag. This time, single file may help some. Some dicing mid-pack, some brake smoke. And here is Max Wilson. Memo Gidley now up to battle with Tagliani.
Gidley now with the second weekend with Chip Ganassi Racing, finally starting to get the car to suit his driving style. Very fast yesterday. And also this morning, I think he's going to be up at the front at no time at all here, Paul.
It was interesting, Parker, how they got him suddenly up to speed.
Well, they looked at the driving style differences between he and his teammate Bruno Junqueira. Memo's a left foot braker. Bruno brakes with the right, and the team says they have never had 2 teammates with such different driving styles, requiring such a different setup. But now, finally, going the direction that Memo's wanted, and he's responded by putting in some very impressive times. Very, very talented driver. We'll see how he goes with his best chance yet in the kart series.
Look at Kenny Brack as he now works his way steadily through the field, working on Adrian Fernandez. On board, Brack. He's the man on the move at the moment. At the front of the field again. Here's Alex Zanardi with Mauricio Guzman, the pole sitter, right behind him. They're beginning to close the gap as well.
And when we were on board with Kenny, you could see him reach down and adjust the rotary knob on the spoke of the steering wheel. That's the mixture selection position. Probably leaning back as he gets into a race groove.
One of the others out on the first lap is Michel Jourdain Jr. Jan Vikas?
Yes, he's back on pit road. Michel, tell us about your turn 1.
I don't know, when I arrived, I saw, I think it was Patrick and Tony, and I tried to wend around them, and I think somebody hit Patrick after again and hit me. So, I mean, it's really sad because every time when we come here, people try to make up 10 positions in the start, you know, it's really bad, man. Well, hopefully Toronto will get it right.
All right, thank you.
Paul Tracy has moved from last place to 20th, but in mid-pack, they're beginning to come forward now. On the last lap, Herta was able to make a move. So was Christian Fittipaldi and Elio Castroneves. So right there, right behind Tora Takagi, the 5 car just went by. There's Bryan Herta, and the moves are starting to happen here.
Bryan Herta turned the quickest combined practice time. Fell back on that opening lap and is now working his way back through the field.
We have a report from course observers. Paul Tracy is running rough. It means his engine is running rough. There's Bryan Herta. Whoa, look at the car dart under braking.
And that's one of the problems with this circuit. You notice he missed the apex, the inside of that corner, by a good car width because the track is absolutely flat. There are no distinct visual references for the drivers to pick up on like they would at a road or a normal street course. So you come rushing down into turn 1 at 180 miles an hour, look for the braking reference point, jam the brakes on, but it's nearly impossible to actually see where to turn the wheel until the actual moment you have to do it. A lot of the drivers missing the inside.
And Paul Tracy just pulled off course. So it appears Paul Tracy's day is done.
Paul, we just heard John Anderson on the radio saying that the engine has blown up, and we saw him make the turn. Instead of turning right, he went left down at turn 1. His day's over, and no big charge.
And Paul Tracy, as he came off, whoa, yeah, I'd say a lot of expensive parts flying there. Max Wilson, the rookie, still the leader. This is a wonderful story. Team that's just really come together. Arciero Blair, driver that's started the year with a different engine package and then finally was able to make this deal with Ford, but they weren't able to supply a current line engine because it's pretty difficult for each engine manufacturer to add engines during the season. So they said, okay, we'll give you last year's model. Look what he's doing with it. Jan?
Tony Kanaan was also a driver involved in that first lap contact. He has been on pit road. He had some damage to the bodywork, but they say they were able to repair it under the caution. He obviously had to go to the back, but they think he's okay now.
Memo Gedley takes a little look to the inside of Alex Tagliani. Behind him, Fernandez and Kenny Breck.
Talked about Max Wilson. It's one of the David and Goliath stories. A small team, Arciero Blair, last weekend, breakthrough performance. They started 19th, but because of the rain, Max drove that car up into 3rd. Closing moments, he fell back to 4th. They said, hey, that wasn't a fluke. We've got a great engineer in Brian Maugh. We've got great guys on board. And now, he just didn't luck into leading this thing. He is leading this field strongly. Fantastic performance for this very small team.
That show you how rough it is out there. Watch these transitions in pavement.
See Kenny Breck just having a look on the inside, just trying to fill Fernandez mirrors just to make sure that he knows he's there. This is one of the few tracks, Paul, Monday morning you get up as a driver, you are bruised across the shoulders and the hips. You are just beaten to death, the track being so rough.
And remember, the airport runway sections of this, not this section here, that's one of the taxiways, but the airport runway section are also grooved, and that just eats away at tires and at the car. Well, Max Wilson, who started back in the 2nd row, is in the lead right now. Alex Tagliani made that great move from 7th up to 2nd place, and it's Ford Toyota at the Marconi Grand Prix of Cleveland. We'll be right back. All this week, RPM Tonight will be live from Kansas Speedway. Coverage begins Monday at 7 Eastern. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Paul Page, Parker Johnstone, Gary Gerould, Jan Beekes. We're at the Marconi Grand Prix of Cleveland, the Burke Lakefront Airport. Here comes Adrian Fernandez trying to move on Alex Tagliani. Now, Memo Gedley was able to get around into 2nd place just before that. And so now here is Adrian Fernandez. And Parker, here comes Kenny Breck. Kenny Breck comes to the inside. Oh, it's going to be close. He gets around.
Yeah, it's a feeding frenzy now. We overheard on the radio. They told Tag he's got to be careful on fuel. Everyone in front of him, they're saying, hey, use the overtake button, do whatever you need to. But once you get pushed outside offline a little bit, once one guy goes past, the others just have to do the same thing.
Max Wilson is still the leader. Now with Gedley in 2nd, then Tag, Fernandez, Breck, and you ride on board for the 6th place car, Alex Zanardi, who has not been able to do all that much with his drives this season. I'd like to reverse that here today. There's no question about that.
Max Wilson now with just about a 1.9-second lead on the previous lap. They knocked off 0.8 of a second. Once that group of Gidley, Fernandez, and Breck were able to get around Tagliani, it's only going to be a few more laps before I think Gidley's going to start putting pressure on Max Wilson. The fastest race laps right now, that last lap, Memo Gidley at 124.1 miles an hour. Then it's Franchitti, DeFerrin, Fernandez, Moreno. The 5 quickest race laps so far through lap 14.
This view is down over the Lakefront Airport from the Honda Helicam. As Zanardi working on Tagliani. This will give us a real good idea. Look at all those different transitions in the pavement.
Especially that corner, turn number 8. It decreases in radius. It falls off camber just as you get to the exit. It's the only place that's lined with concrete walls, and it just sucks you in there.
Now Memo Gidley beginning to sense that he has a chance to get around Max Wilson for the lead.
They cut another 0.8 of a second off the lead on that lap. It's going to happen this lap or coming out of the chicane down into turn 1 on the next lap.
And these are 2 great stories. Rookie Max Wilson, Memo Gidley, who has just been looking for a good ride, finally has it. I'll tell you what, Gary, this is super, isn't it? Jan Beekes.
Thank you, Paul. We're with Larry Blair, who we talked about kind of a David and Goliath effort. And you told me yesterday your specialty is startup operations. And I'm sure that even this surprised you, the kind of start that Max has now.
Yes, Jan, this is just a real treat and a real privilege to be running up front of this quality field. And we're real proud of Max's efforts.
How soon, now that you're running this fast, you might get the latest Ford power plant?
Well, we're hoping soon, obviously.
I have a feeling it might come sooner than expected, guys.
Oh, that'd be good news as well. Watch the field come through here as they head across the start-finish line and down for turn 1.
That was a great response from Max Wilson on that lap. He responded to the pressure, turned in a faster lap, maintained about a 0.4 of a second lead over Gidley. As we said, those 2 power plants are vastly different. Last year's Ford versus this year's Ford, especially with the reduction in boost this year. Small team, last year's power plant, great driver, a lot of heart in Max Wilson.
Great contrast here. On the left, the pole sitter, Mauricio Gugelmin, longtime veteran and relative newcomer to the series, former Indy Lights champion, Oriol Servia, working on Gugelmin. Takagi back there? Oh. Takagi came whooping into turn 1, locked the brakes up, and Brian Herta really had to go to evasive maneuver.
Look at the bumps there as the cars come through the quick chicane on the back side of the course. You see the back ends hop. As the fuel load burns, the back end of the cars will raise a little bit. They'll end up having a lot of rear tire wear. We'll see guys way sideways going through there.
Gil DeFerrin starting to work his way forward slowly now. During that Takagi excursion.
Coming down the inside of Servia. It's wide, but it's not that wide.
There comes Herta to the inside. And back at the front of the field. Memo Gidley tried him in 1. Now, usually if you try there, you may be in trouble by the end of this long sweeper. Let's see what happens.
Well, you know what's interesting is I thought Gidley was not only on the inside, but had a better exit off that corner, and he'd simply drive around Max Wilson as you thought he would going down into turn 3, but it didn't happen. Don't know if Gidley got the wrong gear.
Keep the pressure on him.
But yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. Gidley, multinational go-karting champion's got tons of race experience. I've had the privilege of running in the rain and shifter carts with him. This guy has got just tremendous talent. And that's what he's doing now, is just trying to get Max to make a mistake. What he'll want to do is set the pass up coming out of the chicane. He's going to draft right up behind him, try to get a much better exit on the left-hander that's coming up, and then tuck back inside him, going down to turn 1, but he's fallen back a little bit.
Max Wilson's a pretty cool character running in the lead here. Think all the pressure that's lined up behind him, and he grabs the lead at the start, still there and holding off one of the best teams in the series. Well, there is your lineup. The Marconi Grand Prix of Cleveland. Max Wilson still strongly in the lead. It's Ford, Toyota, Honda, the front three. There's Kenny Brack, he's fourth. Fernandez is third. Memo Gidley second, and Wilson the leader. Back at the Marconi Grand Prix of Cleveland with a new leader, Memo Gidley, who is driving that car for all it is worth. There's the current standing. Wilson back in second place now. It was a very, very pretty pass for Gidley.
He got a great run coming off of Max out of turn number 4. Just threw it to the inside, stood on the brakes, and made it stick.
And nobody really expects it there. You're kind of looking at the first turn. We've been watching the first turn, and he moved a couple times on him and won, but then he made that move. That's pretty.
And it could be just a setup issue. Keep in mind there's only 3 left-hand corners on this track. A lot of teams set their cars up with a little bit of oval in it. In other words, a little bit of wedge, a little bias to the right. And if you get the car too far in that direction, you might be very quick in most of the corners. It can really hurt you coming off left-handers like turn number 4.
Guys on the move, upper left-hand corner there. Kenny Brack making the biggest move, but Helio Castroneves working his way forward as well. And there is Brack working on Adrian Fernandez, fighting for third. Adrian Fernandez trying to keep as much as he can on Wilson. But Wilson's holding up just fine. I wonder, though, what the game ought to be for Wilson. You're thinking maybe drop back to 4th? I mean, he's really run the tires pretty hard thus far.
Well, he has, and if you look at the 1st through 4th group, they've got about a 4-second lead on 5th and on down, which starts with Alex Zanardi. And I'm a little surprised that once that pass was made by Gidley, that Fernandez and Breck didn't pounce on him immediately. They've kind of slotted in now. Gidley has just now turned the 2 quickest race laps overall. Zanardi now the 3rd quickest lap. Max seems to be holding station. You might want to be a little bit more conservative. Of course, you're never just going to move over and give up a position. But I'm surprised Fernandez and Breck aren't exerting more pressure on Wilson at this point.
Gidley's nearly 3 seconds in front of second place. Then 3 cars run right together, and now this group, Tagliani, Gugelman, Tora Takagi, Brian Herta, they're all running right together. Well, we have Gidley in the lead. It's not the only time in his Champ Car career. Look at Brian Herta trying to get Takagi. You can stick your nose out there. Sometimes you can make it. Gidley did, in fact, lead 1 lap at Long Beach last year. That time he was substituting for Patrick Carpentier. Jan Beekes watching the leader Gidley.
Yes, and watch the gap, Paul, because they have just had the call out to Memo Gidley to change the fuel map. And my assumption is that they will be leaning him out a bit to put their fuel strategy and their pit strategy where they want it. And obviously these cars are very susceptible to what fuel map you're on. And right now I think they're turning him down.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it. Last time he crossed the line, 3.8 seconds back to second place Wilson. I would think I'd want to lean out the mapping a little bit too.
Well, yeah, considering that Gidley now has the 4 top quickest laps of the race, they could probably back him off just a little bit. To make it a 2-stop race, the target you're looking for is you've got to go 33 or 34 laps on either the first stop or the second stop. And so far, without any full course yellows.
Oh. Franchitti, Fittipaldi, a bump. This is a battle at 13th place. You're on board with Junqueira. He's 15th. Here comes Cristiano Damata down the inside. Starting to get lively back with those second group qualifiers who qualified in the rain yesterday. Because of that, you had a lot of very serious drivers, a lot of series champions and winners back at the back of the field. Brian Herta works on Tagliani. He's got him. Farron tries to make his move. Whoa, it's going to get crowded.
And you've got to be careful down there, being 100 feet wide. When you pass someone, you want to slide right up next to him side by side. If you get way to the inside of the corner, the visibility to the sides and behind these cars is very bad, and they won't see it, and they'll just come across heading for the apex and ram you. So you don't want to be too far away from the guy you're trying to pass. Keep in mind, this group, the 2 qualifying sessions, one was dry, one was wet. Some of the fastest guys in the field got stuck in the back because they had to go out in the rain. I've been watching Dario Franchitti. He's been moving up almost every lap.
Franchitti, Catherine Evans, Fittipaldi, D'Amata, all of them right together there.
Franchitti being in the top 5 all weekend long. Christian D'Amata has been 4th quickest or better all weekend. Gilles de Ferran was 2nd quickest after the combined practice time. So you got this whole group of guys that are very frustrated to have started where they did, but yet the field is so competitive, it's just not a matter of simply driving by. You really have to work for every single position.
You look at the nose of Dario Franchitti's green and white car there. The Scotsman has certainly been racing today.
Yeah, he's wheeled a few people, it looks like. That's the Team Green Nerf bar on the nose there.
And Scott Dixon, the young rookie who won at Nazareth, is just ahead of him. So it's a good string of drivers sitting there in second, and they're telling Kenny Brack, you're going to pit in just 5 laps.
Back in Cleveland, we have regular scheduled pit stops. Gilles de Ferran has his 4 tires, slight wing change, waiting for fuel. We also saw 12.2 for him. We also saw Zanardi and one of the players' cars. We expect our leader next time around.
Yeah, Alex Tagliani is in. The crew is waiting for Kenny Brack as well, as Gilles de Ferran stays under the speed limit, heading out of the pits. Here comes the leader, Memo Gidley. His pits early on there, just beyond that of Max Wilson.
Reset your fuel.
Jan Beekes.
Looking to see if they make any changes on this car. So far, everything routine. If he's running the fastest laps, I'm not surprised they didn't make any changes. Here's Gary Darrell. Gary?
And we await Kenny Brack for his first service. Here he is, beautifully on the marks, and the crew springs into action for the Rahal team. Memo Gidley flashes by, wing changes up front on both sides, revs up for Brack, and he's rolling. 12 seconds flat.
And he comes out right alongside Adrian Fernandez, and they're going to argue a bit about it.
You can tell where the pit speed limit ended. Those guys both came off the button, the rear's lit, because remember, you're full throttle when you got the pit speed limiter on. And now it's a drag race because it's faster coming out of the pits than it is going through the corner.
And Brack trying to get around Adrian Fernandez as he comes back into the battle. Adrian sweeps behind him. They go side by side along the Lakeshore Straight. Look at Brack continue to work on Fernandez. And remember, these are cold tires. They just came out of the pits, Brack did.
And full tanks, he's going to make a run coming down inside 5.
Brack is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, Max Wilson stayed out, so he assumed the lead. Mauricio Gugelmin stayed out as well. So did Brian Herta, Tora Takagi.
And Paul, we have an accident down here at the entrance to pit road.
That's Bruno Junqueira.
He's made contact with another car on the way in, right when we thought our leader, Max Wilson, is going to come in. And now Max Wilson will have a tough time getting into his pit.
Boy, that was a serious hit. I wondered, do you think, Jan, that it might close the pits?
I'm watching the flags. That's not the case yet.
Looks like there might be enough room to get around on the right. And Cone laying out there in the middle of the pit line as well on the way in. Here comes the leader of the race, Max Wilson. As he's coming in, there he is on the pit road. They're waving him way around the wrecked car, Jan.
And he didn't make it. He couldn't get in, Paul.
Well, he's got the first pit. It's almost an impossible turn. Now what do they do?
And these guys run the fuel right to empty. It's going to be interesting to see if he can actually get another lap out of this car.
Oh, man, 2.1 miles around. That's a long way to go. Mauricio Gugelmin comes in, Gary.
Yeah, we just watched Max Wilson roll by us, and boy, the suspense now plays out for him as the Back West team services Mauricio Gugelmin, who started from the pole. No wing or aerodynamic changes front or back. Oh, fuel running all over the floor here. They're going to have to hold him. They've got a major problem, major fuel leakage. They get water on it. It hasn't ignited thus far. No, the fueler's hurt. Water's being thrown all over him here. We're getting back out of the way, but he appears to be okay. I don't think it's a serious problem. It may be with his right leg, but there was a massive fuel leak as he tried to disconnect.
So, Gary, you're saying that's connected to a flash fire or just jumping out of the way?
He acted like he was burned, Paul, but again, I'm not certain.
You know, during the morning warm-up in Portland, Gilles de Ferran had a problem trying to refuel. Now, what about Wilson? Jan Beekes, is he going to make it in?
Yes, he is. They're just pulling Bruno Junqueira's car out of the way. Thankfully, he had enough fuel. He has lost a lot of time because he had to go 50 miles an hour on pit road when, unfortunately, now he has to do it twice. No changes, at least at the back of the car. But boy, it's a left front. The left front took a real long time coming off. Oh, man. Max Wilson's race, if he hadn't have pit, wow, 21.3 seconds.
Dario Franchitti picked up the lead, but he pitted as well. Moreno has picked up the lead of the race now, followed by Jimmy Vasser, but Moreno should be in the pits anytime as well. So should Vasser. And Tony Kanaan and Max Pappas are the other two who have not stopped on this cycle yet, but they should shortly. Now, what happened to Bruno Junqueira up at the head of the pits?
Coming down the back straight, 180 miles an hour. You brake as late as possible. The pit speed limit doesn't start until just around the corner. Gets in too hot, nails the back of Christian Fittipaldi. Car makes an immediate left, blocking Max Wilson's pits.
Oh, man. Now, Bruno Junqueira out, and we now have to wonder about the condition of Christian Fittipaldi's car. Jan Beekes.
And for 2 weeks in a row, Bruno, contact 2 weeks in a row on pit road. What happened this time?
This time was completely my mistake. I really have to sorry Christian. I was just trying to get on the pits very close to him to get by him on the pit stops, and I hit his back. I think he braked too hard, but it's my fault. I'm the guy behind. I should care the look or the speed that he's doing.
All right, we appreciate your honesty. Thank you.
Gary Gerould, leader Roberto Moreno in.
He hasn't made it yet, Paul. We're standing by with the crew, and we'll get you an update. I believe that there was no fire in that situation in the Pac West pit, so we'll double-check and get back to you after the Moreno stop.
Well, Roberto Moreno, we had the end notification. He had it, too. He's on his way into the pits now, making the turn at the end of the pit. So the defending champion of this race, Roberto Moreno, picks up the lead and comes into the pits, and as he does, Memo Gidley takes the lead. Gary?
Here's Roberto Moreno right on the money. He came in and topped off with fuel on the first caution with that first lap incident, so he gets an extra lap. A lot of brake dust coming off these wheels as they make the change. In 11.7 seconds, he's out of here.
Here's a number we may want to remember for that car, is that he went 35 laps before he had to refuel.
5 laps farther than the leaders when they came in. That is significant. Unless there's a full course yellow or rain, the guys that came in early will have to make a splash and go. They won't be able to make it in 2 stops. The Pat Patrick team, always one of the best in race strategy and fuel conservation. It's definitely a 2-stop race for them.
Memo Gidley flashes past. He's in the lead. But Kenny Breck is now in second place. We'll look for him up track. He's a considerable distance back, actually. There he is as he comes off the corner onto the pit straight with Adrian Fernandez and Alex Zanardi in pursuit. Gary?
Quick update from the Pac West area. They have made a change here on the fueling device, and they're now getting all, or are about to make a change. They're getting all the fuel out of the hose, the crew standing on the wall, and you can see the methanol come spraying out, and we were downwind, and that's not a good place to be. We just got a face full of methanol. And they're going to change and get a whole new fueling device on this rig after that very, very frightening moment. But the fueler was fine. There was no fire. He was reacting because I think he felt the water. He didn't know if it was water or fuel. And happy to report there was no injury here.
And this is the new single-point refueling rig that they mandated this year, Parker.
It's got the vent hose here and the fuel hose itself combined in one unit, eliminating one crewman position on the side of the car. There have been problems. It's a very beefy, heavy unit, and the problem is when they fail, spill fuel, they can flash fire. Remember, methanol you can't see burn. You just get very, very hot.
Trying to save every precious drop of methanol as they try to change the probe. Dario Franchitti turning the fastest lap, nearly 127 miles an hour, and he brought his race forward to 5th place as we see how they change right front for Cristiano D'Amato. Well, how's this for a contrast? That's Max Pappas, the winner a week ago at Portland, currently running 22nd. And Memo Gidley's working up to get around. Whoa, there's parts there. Any idea where those came from? They just laying out there? Or did they come off of Shinji Nakano just ahead? Nevertheless, as they go around Nakano, Pappas is trying to keep from being put a lap down by Memo Gidley.
What a difference a week makes. Remember, Detroit was so difficult for Max. He came back to qualify on the pole, dominate Portland, and now he's at the back as we watch Shinji Nakano continue to slow.
Well, nothing obvious on Shinji Nakano. We go back to the leader. Look at those cars bounce through there. Leader comes through. Mauricio Guzman into the pits again. So for the pole sitter.
Good move. Let's make some space now. You're okay.
Pole sitter, it's not looking all that good. And there he rejoins the circuit after coming into the pits. There's Fittipaldi. Now remember, he was center punched by Bruno Junqueira as he came into the pits. Gary, he is currently 16.
Well, I want to show you the rear tire that came off Christian Fittipaldi's car. You can clearly see this defined slice here. In fact, you can see that it peeled down through this outer layer, and you can see the cord down inside, but it didn't deflate the tire. So they were able to make the change here during the yellow and get Christian back out without any apparent further damage.
Nasty slice, but I must say, nice manicure, Gary. Shinji Nakano, Jan Vikas, what's going on with him?
Well, remember you were talking about did something come off of his car. As he came onto pit road, there were pieces of bodywork that were falling off the car. He has since climbed out, so you were correct. The pieces you saw on the racetrack came from Nakano's machine.
Also, bad luck for Shinji Nakano as well. Gidley, Breck, Fernandez, Zanardi, Franchitti. Those are the top 5. Franchitti with a spectacular run to get there and stay there. Brian Herta also turning some great laps. Herta sits back in 6th place. There's Castroneves, D'Amato. A little further down in the field, this is at 12th place, but it's a nice little fight. Tagliani trying to get in there too. There's Tag. Back to the battle for 2nd place. Breck, Fernandez, Zanardi. Zanardi's looking pretty racy.
We just heard a radio conversation. He said he's very, very happy with the car. He said, I'm just going to use the fuel I've got. We'll do it in 3 stops, and I'm going to stay with this group. Interestingly, Gidley, when they came out of that round of pit stops, was 12 seconds ahead of this group. He's been pulling out almost a second a lap. He's extended it now to 16 seconds over Breck, Fernandez, and Zanardi.
Max Wilson, early leader, down in 18th now, Jan Vikas.
Yes, and remember, we had a bit of a discussion during the break as to why was he not able to make it into his pit box. So I went down and spoke with the team and said, were you able to tell Max Wilson on the radio that the car of Bruno Junqueira was positioned there and he'd have to swing around it? He said, yes. We called him in because we thought he could make it. When he came onto pit road and saw the CART official waving him by, he made a judgment call and said, I can't make it into my pit. Obviously, that's cost him dearly.
Well, and that's exactly what you were suggesting, Parker.
Well, and the problem is, the way you enter the pits here, you don't have a long time to see them. You make that quick right-left transition, you're slowing down from 180 to 50 miles per hour. Since he's got one of the first pit boxes, the reveal, or the time you have to analyze the situation, is very, very small. You see someone from CART waving you as you enter. Now, obviously, he had enough fuel to get back around, but I don't think he had enough time to fully comprehend what was happening or make the judgment as to whether he could fit into that box or not.
Yeah, but then again, the race course is what they give you. Zanardi works to Farron. Kenny Breck just ahead of him. Breck is 2nd. Gidley's got 18 seconds on the field at this point. That's getting to a full pit stop time.
Yeah, he's doing an amazing job at the front. He's got most of the quickest laps now outside of Franchitti, still the fastest. Fernandez and Breck also in the top 10 for quickest laps. And you look at the guys that are putting in a huge drive. Breck obviously coming from well down in the field in 17th to 2nd. Fernandez, Zanardi, Franchitti a little farther back. Great pit strategy from the Patrick guys. They moved from 19th and 20th. They're now up in 10th and 11th with Moreno and Vassar.
Former two-time series champion Alex Zanardi. We're going to ride with him.
Turn 1, he nearly got in the back of Fernandez, had to take evasive action out to the outside, lost a bunch of time there getting wide through turn 1.
And we're going to show you what happened there. You saw Fernandez just kind of disappear off one side of the onboard camera.
He gets in real deep under braking, almost hits him, swings out wide to avoid him. Now way off the throttle, way offline, and look how much ground he lost coming off of that corner.
You know, it's interesting because there seems to be a fairly balanced conversation. You know, I heard it at one of the fan forums that they have at almost every race weekend here at the track. And the balance is that a lot of people say, I want to see nothing but onboard camera. And another group says, no, but if you see it, then things like that happen. You're not sure where they went. So we're trying to react to both of you. Jan Beekes?
Well, Chip Ganassi has one car out of the race, but you've got one guy just leaving the field. For a brand new assignment for you, you've got to be really pleased.
Certainly. I mean, Mimo's doing a great job. I mean, he's got the target team up to where we're used to running, and I have to say it's been a while since we've been up here, and thank God that's Mike's car, not mine.
Now, things did not go as well as you had hoped, I know, in Portland for Mimo, but was there any consideration at that time? I mean, did you think that this quickly he'd be right up front?
Well, I mean, I think he really didn't get a chance at Portland. Obviously got knocked out in the first lap or so there. So, I mean, the guy didn't really have a chance. And, I mean, we think he's got potential, or we wouldn't have put him in the seat. So, obviously, we think the guy's a winner.
Well, we know that a lot of people appreciate the chance you've given him. Thanks.
Thank you.
A couple points on that. He got knocked out in an accident that involved both of Morris Nunn's cars. That cost $500,000 to Morris Nunn last week. Gidley is the leader. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. You think there's nothing new on television this summer? Then you don't know Jack. It's like a good game show gone bad. Wednesday at 8/7 Central on ABC. Well, welcome back to the Marconi Grand Prix of Cleveland. Mimo Gidley is still leading this race. What a wonderful story this is. The season started with Nicholas Manassian in this car. The Frenchman just really couldn't get it together from the point of view of car owner Chip Ganassi. And so a week ago, he handed the ride over to Gidley, and look at what he's doing with it. Here's the battle, second, third, and fourth. Breck, Fernandez, Zanardi.
And Gidley's just not leading. He's running away. He's now pulled out the advantage to 22 seconds. Didn't have very much time to get acclimated with the team at Portland. Got taken out by Tony Kanaan in the beginning. They've got the car working in the right direction, and he is just flying now over this group of three cars of Breck, Fernandez, and Zanardi.
As we watch this battle for second place, if you remember that interview with Chip Ganassi, he said, I'm just glad that it's Mike's car, not mine. They actually compete within the team. Ganassi takes one car, Mike Hull takes the other car. Here's the pit summary. And Franchitti, one of the big winners, but the two biggest are the Patrick Racing cars, improving 9 during that stop. Unbelievable. Gary?
Well, and just to add to that, Paul, is the fact that they were able, by getting a splash early on with that first yellow, to go a little bit further than most of the field. And so they're now targeting lap 68 for their second stop, which would mean they'd have to go 32 laps to the checkered flag. Supposedly, that would be easily within the window. So once again, the old veterans, Pat Patrick, Jim McGee and company, making some critical moves to get their drivers way forward in the field through their pit stops.
You saw a brief glimpse of a very busy Alex Zanardi.
Yeah, he had a good run on Fernandez coming out of turn 1. Tried to go inside into turn 3, didn't make it. Now Kenny Breck, when he tried that exact same maneuver, instead of trying to push the maneuver through 3, actually laid back, turned in later to get a better run off of turn 4, and then just outbroke Adrian into turn 5. So Zanardi now trying to figure out how to set up a pass around Adrian Fernandez.
All right, we're on board with Zanardi. We'll see what he does with this lap. This is Max Wilson down in turn 1. Well, his day has gone from great to terrible. There's the leader coming up behind him.
Coming down into the first corner, starts to turn into turn 1, gets the back end out on the entry, and then just stands on it. No chance of stalling the engine there. Puts up a little bit of a mosquito abatement squad smoke screen for the competitors coming up behind him.
Yeah, there comes Gidley. Probably had his heart in his mouth for a second there. Alex Zanardi got around Fernandez. Zanardi goes to 3rd. Gidley, Breck, Zanardi, Fernandez. Gidley, 24 seconds in front of 2nd place. How'd he do it?
Came down to turn 1, did it the old-fashioned way. Just outbroke him and said, I've got the apex, I got the corner. You can out-drag me, but we both have Hondas, and I know you're on the overtake button, and so am I.
You're looking back from Kenny Breck because Zanardi's getting pretty serious with him.
Paul, this kind of harkens up memories of the Alex Zanardi of a few years back. He's frankly said that this is his favorite racing circuit in North America, and he is having a ball. And remember, in one of the 2 times that he won at Cleveland, he went all the way to the near back of the field. I can't remember the exact position, but it was around 19th or 20th, and worked his way forward and won the race. And after the disasters at Detroit and Portland, when he ran a combined total of 5 laps, what a great day for Morris Nunn's team and Alex Zanardi.
In turn 1, Franchitti came up to challenge Fernandez. It doesn't always work there. Can he do it here? No, Fernandez maintains position. The battle is for 4th.
Yeah, Gary, that was back in 1997. You were close. Zanardi dropped all the way back to 22nd place and then charged through the field. He's won twice here, 97 and 1998.
The look down from the Honda Helicam. Fernandez being chased by Dario Franchitti.
Franchitti now the quickest lap of the race at 126.8 miles an hour. And look at him close here. He's got a great run on Fernandez, but this is what's so critical, is getting through the chicane, the second part of it, as cleanly as possible so you can get a good run going down to turn 1. That's what Zanardi's trying to do on Breck. Franchitti's trying to set up Fernandez the same way. They're just not close enough.
But with 25 seconds out in front and 56 laps already complete, Memo Gidley is looking so very strong. Those parentheses are their starting positions. It's Toyota, Ford, Honda at the front. Back at the Marconi Grand Prix of Cleveland, Alex Zanardi is the first to hit the pit road. Jan Beekes.
Yes, and of course we have a rejuvenated Alex Zanardi. He is just so excited to be back up on pace. Watch for the front wing change here. They want to give it a half turn. They went with a full turn, a front wing. Oh, baby, there's the revs. Alex Zanardi going back to battle.
Goodbye. Of course, he will be on the pit speed limit until he gets down toward the end. They're laying out equipment also at the Penske team for Jill DeFerrin. The leader, Memo Gidley, the red 12 car right there, is now beginning once again to overhaul the back of the field. Already got around Max Pappas. That's Max Wilson in front of him, the early leader. They're telling Kenny Breck, come into the pits in 3 laps. That's Zanardi finally making it off the pit road and joining the fight. Gonna do battle with Wilson for a second here.
This is going to be an interesting strategy if we don't have a full course yellow. Zanardi now committed to 3 stops without a yellow.
Look at this. Oh! Max, buddy, that's a very expensive wing section you trimmed off there. Jan Beekes.
Well, it sounds pretty exciting on the racetrack. Fairly routine right now. Wow! 8.3 seconds by my watch. Wow, I don't know how they got the fuel in that fast.
Short fill, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think, Jan? I mean, it's about a 13-second flow, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm surprised that you would do that unless you knew you couldn't make it to the end.
That's the answer. I would think they know. He's in early.
Max Wilson with the broken wing comes in. This is how he trimmed it off. Just put it in that grinder at the back of Zanardi's car. Zanardi hangs on to it. And look at Mimo Gidley, the leader.
Dodging another bullet there.
No, please, don't put me in the middle of this.
And Zanardi, you have to wonder, he just came out of the pits on those tires. I hope he didn't get any cuts from the contact there with Max Wilson. Of course, they've got onboard tire pressure sensors, so to be able to tell if the tire is going down.
Yeah, but we got to go back to DeFerrin because this, at the last fuel of the race, you're talking maybe max 13, but certainly over 10 seconds. If he goes in and out in 8, that's got to be a short fuel. So now what are they thinking?
Well, it's like all I can think is DeFerrin at Portland. They just turned the fuel up, got him to the front, and that's how he won. DeFerrin, or Zanardi must have a problem from that contact with Wilson.
He comes in right in front of the leader.
We're going to keep an eye on both of them. Right now, I have repositioned myself right over the fueler because I'm going to try and see. Oh, it took a while to get the probe in. I'm going to see if they actually put all the fuel in this one. Yeah, they're waiting for all the fuel from Mimo Gidley. You have to wait till you see the methanol in the clear spot. There he goes. Not the quickest stop, but he had a big lead.
And it validates what we said about 13 seconds for the fuel.
Gidley came in with a 24-second lead, so certainly not a problem there. But the strategy's got to be here. We know Pat Patrick, some of the other teams are going to do this on 2 stops. These other guys like DeFerrin with Walker and then with Penske last year, you turn the fuel up, you just go for it, you do a splash and go at the end.
Kenny Breck picks up the lead, followed by Fernandez and Franchitti. Jan Beekes.
We wondered about Zanardi. He had to pit. I assume because of that contact, he had a flat tire.
So both of the cars involved there pitting very, very closely together. As Zanardi came in, you got a view out of the rearward-facing camera of them working on Max Wilson's car, trying to get the nose and wing repaired to get him back out. And finally, Wilson is rolled out. Kenny Breck comes in. His teammate, Max Pappas, comes in behind him, Gary Gerould.
And Max Pappas's pit is in front of Breck on pit road, so I don't know if that could lead to any kind of a problem or not. Here comes Breck now, and here comes Max. Max goes on by. He doesn't pit. He just visited pit road, tipped his cap, and kept on going.
I want to make sure Ken got in okay.
Everything looks real good for Breck. There they go.
So as Breck heads out, here's the fight for the lead. And Franchitti just nailed Fernandez. And Franchitti goes to the front. Now Franchitti has only 29 laps of fuel on that car. I would think he could go maybe as many as 3 more.
An amazing drive for Dario. He started 14th on the first lap melee. He fell all the way back to the back, came in with Paul Tracy to top up, went back out, and has now worked his way back to the lead of this race.
Fernandez, on the other hand, probably should be in. Well, in fact, there he goes. Fernandez heads in, and that brings Brian Herta to second, Scott Dixon to third. Jan Beekes.
We just made the sprint down to Fernandez. Good thing they don't have a speed gun on the back of pit road. We might have broke the speed limit, but now we see Fernandez nice and routine. The valve went in nice and cleanly. That's how you make a fast pit stop. You'll wait till you see in the fueler. The fuel will be in the clear. There it is. 13.4, and that confirms you can't get all the fuel in faster than that.
And there is a smart team. Most of them do it, but you saw them lay the starter motor out just in case the engine died. It would already be within arm's reach. Franchitti, the leader. 65 laps of the 100 scheduled here. The weather, while still threatening, looks better than it did at the start. Actually, some blue sky out over Lake Erie. But as we saw in qualifying yesterday, that could change in just a matter of minutes. Franchitti stays out, so does second place Brian Herta. Christian Fittipaldi, Alex Tagliani come through. Here are the leaders. So thus far, Gidley, Fernandez, Breck, they've stopped. Here's Moreno with Scott Dixon. Moreno is third. And around Dixon just a lap ago during that stop. All of these guys in the front 7 positions are still yet to fuel. Jan, here's Elio.
Castro Neves, a little bit different than the Farron. He's going to wait for the fuel. That was still pretty fast, though, just under 12 seconds.
Oh, and there comes Michael Andretti. First time we've actually seen him today. 12th place. Oriol Servia comes in, too. Dario Franchitti is in. Second place, Brian Herta is in. Moreno, no doubt, will stay out, and the defending champion will pick up the lead, Gary Gerould.
Worked out beautifully, in fact, getting Michael Andretti in and out. A clear shot for Franchitti as he rolls perfectly into place. Boy, he has had contact on the front nose. Hadn't seen that before. Don't know if that was from the start of the race or what, but he really got pummeled up there. Waiting now. Revs come up. We're at 12 seconds, 13.4. And Franchitti's back out. Now the question is, did he get enough to get into the checker?
Oh, there goes Herta. Herta gets out in front of Franchitti. Herta gets out in front of Franchitti. He was a little further down the pits.
But watch the drag race here now, coming out of the pit lane. Whoa, look at Dario light him up on the way out.
Oh, they both lay on the throttle, out on the Lakeside Straight.
Dario's got the inside line to turn 3.
Apparently, Brian hacked off the Scotsman. So the big drag race is won there by Franchitti. And there, you just got a glimpse of him. Here he comes onto the front straight. Roberto Moreno, the orange and white car, Visteon sponsorship. He comes around Michael Andretti. He tries to come around Michael Andretti, but doesn't quite come around. Roberto Moreno is leading it. His teammate Jimmy Vasser is in second place. Cristiano D'Amata is third. Those three have not yet stopped. Now D'Amata is stopping. This should be a full fuel for D'Amata. Wouldn't think I would gamble anything else here.
Toyota Power getting excellent mileage, as we've seen from Gidley, the Pat Patrick cars, and Newman Haas Racing.
Gil DeFerrin, Brian Herta, battle for 5th place. DeFerrin has it right now. He just snatched it away from Herta. Second place, Jimmy Vasser, the first of the Patrick cars, now on pit road. He went 33 laps since his last fill. Moreno has gone 32. Gary?
And Moreno apparently will go one more, as this time they won't risk having both team cars in at the same time. Here's Jimmy V. Wing change on the left side, wing change on the right side, waiting for all the fuel, holding him, and now he's rolling. 12.5 seconds. We may see Moreno on the next lap.
So Jimmy Vasser out of second place, rejoins the fight.
There have been some questions about the Vestian sponsorship on Jimmy's car. Pat Patrick says they're still looking for a full-time sponsor for Jimmy's car. However, they just wanted to give an extra thank you to Vestian for supporting them for so long.
So Roberto Moreno behind Zanardi as the leader of the race, really stretching the fuel on that car. Roberto Moreno made his pit stop without a problem. This mobile update has to do, though, with the future of the Michigan 500, because CART announced last week that they will no longer race at Michigan beginning in 2000, though many people hope that that is different. Even though in the past 3 years it's been some of the greatest racing we've seen, it has not helped attendance very much at all, and people here at the track met that with mixed emotions.
Certainly we need to have some super speedways, some 500 milers on our schedule. It's kind of it's certainly one of the factors that makes Champ Car racing what it is, and I think it's a great loss.
Fan standpoint, it was a really good race to watch on TV, but from a driver standpoint, it's a race where we all go in there holding our breaths and hoping and praying that we all come out with all our limbs in place. So from that standpoint, I'm glad we're not going.
It confuses me because we have such a great race there. We really have probably one of the best motor races I've ever seen, and yet nobody comes out to watch it. So I don't quite understand the way that works, but it is a shame because it is one of our more exciting races, but we'll just go do it somewhere else.
In 3 weeks, CART returns to ABC Sports for one of their premier events, the Michigan 500, presented by Toyota. Sunday, July 22nd on ABC.
Mimo Gidley now continues to lead at the Burke Lakefront Airport. 7.4 seconds over Gilles de Ferran, and then Dario Franchitti another 4 seconds back. We've just had Scott Dixon and this driver, Tora Takagi, spin off the track. You see Jimmy Vasser getting by cleanly. Tagliani D'Amata on the outside. Christian Fittipaldi getting held up.
Fittipaldi finally makes it past Takagi. Gidley is the leader, followed by de Ferran and Franchitti.
Scott Dixon now heading for the pit road after his off.
Look at that again for you.
Dixon down the inside of Takagi. They make contact there. Spins Takagi around, and he's giving him a little wave hello. Not sure if he used all the fingers on that one. You can see the pieces coming off the front of the car. The right front obviously damaged.
And Dixon, of course, has brought it into the pits. I don't think they'd try to repair that. Jimmy Vasser with Tagliani on the attack. Vasser is 8. Matter of fact, it's Tagliani, D'Amata, Fittipaldi. They're all right there. So there's the leader of the race, the 12 car, Target Chip Ganassi Racing, Mimo Gidley at the wheel. And here is the pit summary again. After that second round of stops, Gilles de Ferran jumps up by 4 places. Fernandez loses 4.
Yeah, but brilliant strategy by Team Penske. They split the 2 drivers, de Ferran and Castroneves. A full fill for Castroneves. If you're going to make 3 green lap stops, you know you're going to short fill the last one. Why not do it on the second stop, gain track position, and hope for a yellow? This has got de Ferran up towards the front. He's clicking off now about a half a second off the interval to Gidley. The car's lighter, it's faster, and he's slowly making up ground on Mimo.
And Gary Gerald, you've been watching in 6th place Roberto Moreno.
Get to update you on 2 stories, Paul. Moreno came in and had an 11-second servicing. He should have enough fuel, they say, to go the distance. Meanwhile, Scott Dixon has pulled into the pits. There was, in fact, damage to the right front suspension. They've already pulled off one of those upper wishbones, and they've got a replacement going in right now. Dixon hoping to get back out, get some more time in the car, but this has been a long visit here, obviously, to make repairs in the right front.
As we watch the leader, Mimo Gidley, you saw 2nd place Gilles de Ferran, who's just 5 seconds back. And now we're going to see who guessed best. Here's turn 1. Takagi battling with D'Amata, got past him. Vasser, Fittipaldi. De Ferran closing in too.
Fittipaldi looking.
Castroneves closing in back there.
Fittipaldi looking down the inside of Jimmy Vasser. You can see JV looking in his mirror there. Jimmy Vasser holding the track record here set back in 1998 at 134.3 miles per hour in qualifying.
So Mimo Gidley, brand new driver, his 2nd week with Target Chip Ganassi Racing, is leading here. But it's going to be an interesting finish. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. In terms of Kenny Brack and Scott Dixon, are we about to see another brand new winner? Well, it's only about 20 laps now to the end of the Marconi Grand Prix of Cleveland. And Memo Gidley is 18 seconds ahead of Dario Franchitti. Race recap for you. 79 laps. Hasn't been Gidley all the way, though. Max Wilson had a wonderful run at the lead in the start, made a great move. Gil de Ferran has been running laps. He's just burning up the tires, and he just pitted. Now, let's talk about that pit stop for a second, because during that stop, they refueled, took a long time, and they didn't change tires, Parker.
Well, the guys are so fast on the tire changes, it only takes 4.5 seconds or so. We were wondering why it took us so long and why you would put full fuel in with only 23 laps left, but I think Jan's found out the answer to that.
Jan?
I have, as a matter of fact. It turned out they had trouble with the fuel nozzle, so they were not planning on spending the 14.5 seconds on pit road that they did. Now, speaking of seconds, Paul, you just said it was an 18-second lead for Memo Gidley.
Not anymore. It's 19 now.
Well, even with 19, I am pretty certain he's going to have to pit. The team will not tell me that, but by my calculations, I think we're going to see him on pit road. Now, of course, the guy behind him is Franchitti. What's up with him, Gary?
Well, he's in the fuel conservation mode. Just talked to Barry Green, and he says, we gain a little, we lose a little. I said, how close are you? And he says, it's going to be razor thin. And I said, well, what do you need to do? He says, we need to do 2.1 miles per gallon to make it to the finish. Cutting it tight.
And this is just what we saw at Portland. Most of the strategy now is to conserve and try to get to the end without a stop. Gidley, Chip Ganassi Racing, they're taking a page from Team Penske and Derek Walker. They've got him on full burners right now. He's pulling out about a second a lap lead over Dario Franchitti. I guess the question is, Paul, how long does it take to get on pit road at 50 miles an hour, do the splash and go, and then go the rest of the distance on pit lane at 50 miles an hour? That full interval is what Gidley's going to need, plus a little cushion if he hopes to come back out in the lead. But he's pulling out about a second a lap now over Dario Franchitti.
And that's an enormous interval. It's a very long pit road, both in and out here. And it is part of the reason that where you set your pits is to some degree important, but it still ends up being the same for everybody. The interval first, you saw Gidley go by.
We're looking for Dario Franchitti now. Dixon, got Mikey, got Tony, and there he is. So it gives you an idea, a fairly substantial portion of the track, about a third of the track now.
It's not just that. Look at everybody back behind him, and look at how the interval has changed over the past few laps. Yeah, Dario not only has to try and charge forward, and he'd have to make up a second a lap plus. So what we're going to depend on is Gidley's potential stop.
And obviously right now what Chip Ganassi's hoping for is a full course yellow to take that out of the equation. Right now, Dario's just got to keep everyone behind him and hope that Gidley comes in and we don't get a full course yellow if Dario Franchitti wants to win this race.
There's our pole sitter, Mauricio Guzman. He's the last car on the lead lap. He runs in 15th place. Got a glimpse, too, of Max Pappas as he went around him there. It's Toyota, Honda, Ford, Gidley, Franchitti, Herta. This mobile update focuses on the NHRA at the halfway point of the 24-race schedule. Two of the sport's biggest names are leading the way. Kenny Bernstein, at age 56, is the point leader in Top Fuel, while John Force, 5 wins shy of 100 career wins, is the top gun in Funny Car. Now, if you want to see some spectacular racing, get set for NHRA action under the lights at Pomona. Next weekend, the Nitro cars provide amazing visuals at night. It's the Pep Boys NHRA 50th Anniversary Nationals from Pomona, California. Qualifying Friday night, eliminations are live Saturday night at 10 Eastern on ESPN2. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Adrian Fernandez suddenly makes an appearance on the pit road, unscheduled and untimely. This race, though, appears to be coming down at this moment to whether or not Gidley can force enough of a lead, and if he can't, who's going to be in second? Because Gidley's going to have to stop. Jan?
Yes, we're pretty certain he'll be here maybe in about 7 or 8 laps. In the meantime, Adrian Fernandez came in. The engine was still running. They look underneath the bonnet here. They don't seem like there's anything that they can do at the moment. So, crushing blow for Adrian Fernandez.
Well, if the young ones in the family are saying, hey, where do I get my start in racing? Memo Gidley has the answer for you. Go-karting. Go-karting early. Of course, Montoya and lots of others have had that same answer. Roberto Moreno on the move now. He got around Breck. He's working on Herta.
And Paul, they've told Roberto Moreno, feel free to use that overtake button. So they're very confident about the fuel. And remember, he was one of the last in the cycle to pit. So we think he's definitely good to go. The guys behind him may have to sweat some bullets.
Michael Andretti had a great line about them a couple of years ago. He said, you know, I think they got an oil refinery back in those cars.
Boy, those guys are good on mileage. Right now, Gidley is 23.5 seconds ahead. We figure it's going to take 35 to 40 seconds of the lead. Look at Bryan Herta's stats. The guy loves this place. It suits his silky smooth, easy for me to say, driving style. And now he's come back to the front, running third. But Paul, I think once Gidley pits here in the next 7 or 8 laps, really the battle for the race is between Franchitti, Herta, Moreno, Kenny Breck, and maybe Gilles de Ferran as well.
So Gidley at 24.5 seconds ahead of second place. That's not going to be enough.
It's got to be.
Going to need some more.
It's got to be 35 to 40 seconds. I don't think he can make that.
Jan Beekes, what are they thinking down in his pit?
Well, of course, we have a feeling.
Just a second. Herta.
We'll be right back.
Herta makes a big move on Franchitti and grabs second, almost loses it. Moreno's on top of him now. We'll get back to you, Jan.
Well, that's going to help you out, Chip, because I know you're trying to just run as fast as you can. You think you can build enough of a gap to get Memo back out in the lead after you pit?
Yeah, we think so. I mean, we just need a splash and go, so I think we can get back out no problem.
What do you think the gap has to be? Have they calculated how much of a lead you need?
They calculated the gap, but you'll have to ask the guys that are running the car. I mean, that's Mike and Scott and these guys up here.
Well, we got a big change, John.
They got the well in hand.
Moreno and Herta just got, well, not together, but they ran one another off the course.
Well, what happened is Herta got wide coming through the 7-8 complex. Moreno started to go to the outside, thinking that Herta would loop it back to the inside and just drove it very gently into the tires. I'm hoping he's keeping it running. It's really hard to get those things in reverse. It takes 2 hands to engage the reverse and hold the shift lever forward. Let's take a look at it and see what happened one more time here.
Yeah, that'll ruin any strategy that the Patrick team had for Moreno, I would think. It was Herta that got the left rear off.
140 miles an hour, he drops the wheel off the grass. Moreno starts to go on the outside, can't make it, hits the tires.
And here is Gidley, the leader.
Oh, man! Wow, that was close with Alex Zanardi. And had a little bit of trouble getting the nozzle in. But boy, this could be a break if they go full course caution. All right, now we get to find out about this gap.
Watching for Franchitti. There he is, making the turns, and now coming onto the front straight. He's easily going to grab the lead.
Gidley just now off the pit speed limiter, and remember, it's faster out of the pits than it is through turn 1. Gidley will be rounding the last corner out of the pits.
There he
is. But it wasn't enough of a gap.
Let's go get him now.
He's got Breck easily, and he's got plenty of fuel.
He cannot stay on your fuel trim. Let's get him.
Some encouraging words for Gidley that he can haul, put his most rich mapping position, his highest power, and go after Dario Franchitti with 10 laps to go.
When you're lean back, it can be as much as 100+ horsepower difference between full lean and full rich. Right now, Gidley's got all 900 horsepower. Dario's something well back of that. Kenny Breck also having to run very conservatively, but we've watched Kenny Breck many times run very fast on little fuel. But look, Gidley taking off into the distance for Dario Franchitti in his first race win in kart.
Yeah, I'm not so sure, though. I want Kenny Breck breathing down the back of my neck. Franchitti, back to Gidley and Breck. There is the interval, first through third, all on the front straight. We'll be back with the checkered flag after this. Well, here comes the leader, Dario Franchitti, right behind Michael Andretti. But look back behind. There comes Gidley. Gidley comes around Kanaan, puts him a lap down. Kenny Breck headed for the pit road. So Breck comes out of third place, takes himself out of the fight for the lead, and will make a stop. The battle is now quite simply Franchitti and Gidley.
This should be fast down here for Kenny Breck, the season points leader. They don't need much fuel. They're banging him on the a stick. There was a pull away, and I see flame at the back of the car. Something ignited, but it's nothing serious. Quickly doused. Crew saying everything's all right. But 6.9 seconds for Kenny Brack. Now let's quickly update Dario Franchitti. Barry Green is telling us, Paul, that it's going to be so very close. I said, can you in fact race Mimo Gidley? He says, I don't think we can. So I think maybe they're looking for a podium and points rather than a victory.
But I don't think Dario Franchitti's thinking that way.
He's looking for a full course yellow about now is what he's looking for. Gidley has been reeling him in anywhere between a second and a half to a few tenths a lap. He lost some time on the last lap getting around Tony Kanaan. He now has, there you see the interval, Dario Franchitti, then Michael Andretti. Remember, a teammate of Dario Franchitti's, although a loosely defined teammate.
Whoa, careful.
Memo gets it locked up, slides it sideways. You got to figure if he can just push hard enough, he may run Dario out of fuel. The same strategy we've seen work so well in the past. I don't know why more people don't use that.
Yeah,
Paul.
but he just fell out of the push position because with Michael Andretti separating him from Franchitti. Remember one thing, we're talking a teammate there, and Michael is just hard to pass anyway. He drives for every position.
Well, I learned that from his dad, Mario.
Take a look at that.
Coming down into turn one. Gidley had a good run coming off the chicane, starts looking down the inside of Michael. Michael turns in. Mimo turns a little earlier to avoid contact. Mimo just keeps it locked up. Nice bit of driving there to avoid contact with Andretti. Stands on the throttle and off he goes.
So how much of a help can Michael Andretti be to his teammate Dario Franchitti? Jan?
Well, I think he could be quite a big help, certainly according to what we've seen with the Ganassi team. Chip Ganassi in particular having very, I would say, fierce discussions with the kart officials, first for the Tony Kanaan situation and then with Michael Andretti. They know that if Mimo's going to have a chance to win this, he's got to clear Michael, and they obviously know that he's Dario's teammate.
But with 4 laps to go, he was right up on the back end.
And we saw Michael just pull over to the inside, let Mimo go by on the outside. Now, we're not inferring Michael's done anything wrong up until that point. He never weaved, he never blocked. But there you saw Michael say, hey, I'm down a lap. I'm just going to pull over and let this race be decided between Gidley and Franchitti.
Good sportsmanship there.
Excellent.
I was going to say he was right up on the back end, ready to challenge the leader, and then fell to 3.5 seconds back last lap around. Now he has to get around the early leader, Max Wilson. Gary Gerould, what are they thinking at Team Green?
Barry, how close is it going to be in terms of fuel, and can you race Mimo?
Well, I mean, you know, Mimo's got to get through a couple more cars to get to us. Dario's done such a great job. He is so excited. He knows he's done a good job, but he's just got to take it easy. I'm panicking right now. I mean, we have got to conserve fuel.
How much do you have to get over these remaining 3 or 4 laps?
We're looking for 2 or 3 tenths of a gallon to get to the end.
Wow, you can't cut it any closer than that.
Dario Franchitti with less now than 3 to go. Wondering whether or not he can make it. Look at that. Last win came Australia of 99.
And Paul, they're telling him on the radio, you have to slow down.
How can you tell him that?
Well,
how do you push the button and say those words?
Well, that's just the words that Mimo Gidley is going to be told are going over the air by Chip Ganassi to keep him motivated. Over the radio, we're hearing, go, you got to hunt this guy down. You've got to do it. You know that you've got full power and the guy in front of you doesn't. It's a great motivator, but he's got to get past Max Wilson, and he's only got 2 laps to do it.
A little cough as the car came off of the corner there.
Keep going, Frankitti's in fuel trouble. Keep going.
Franchitti definitely listening to the advice to slow down based on his speed the last lap.
Yeah, there's the encouragement to Gidley, that little bit of coaching.
I don't know. Unless it's fuel, that's going to be the only thing I would think would change the outcome of this.
Consider how hard Dario must be driving to maintain this gap with 100 less horsepower, so at this point.
The real question is, how is Dario going to do this last lap and not breathe?
Well, right now, all he's doing is getting the interval from his spotters. He can see both Max Wilson and Gidley in his mirror here. And he's going to slow down as much as possible to let these guys get up behind him If Gidley doesn't get a shot at him going down into the chicane on the last lap, if he can't close up this interval, then it's a matter of getting through the chicane and hoping the car doesn't cough, doesn't run out of fuel, headed for the start-finish line. But look at the interval decrease here, coming through turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, that mostly was a decrease under braking, though. It goes back to where it was. Wilson separates him. Gidley waits until the last possible second to brake there, working the final turns of the final lap.
Well, there's Wilson. Gidley's got to get this exit exactly right, stand on the throttle, push the overtake button, and now he's got to run up behind. You can see he's closing down on Dario. His only chance will be coming off the chicane, headed for the start-finish line.
It's going to be a difficult place to pass. They'll both swing as wide as they can. Gidley tries to work him. Gidley is there, but Dario Franchitti does it. Dario Franchitti holds him off. The question is, will he make it all the way around the track? Congratulations to Team Green, but you know what? Memo drove one whale of a race, and you still got some fumes in the back of the car, but it looks like he may have run out already.
He is out of gas, Paul, coming off the first corner. Brilliant race by both teams, by Memo Gidley. Flawless drive.
Good job, man.
The one,
Gary Gerould.
Barry, it looks like he just ran out over there in the backstretch. You had about 400 yards of enough fuel to make it.
That was too close. On top of that, we lost telemetry on the last 2 laps, so we were just guessing. But what a great drive. Last on the racetrack, all the way back to the front. I mean, talk about a monkey off his back. He drove one heck of a race today, Gary.
Yes, indeed. Jan?
And with Chip Ganassi, and Chip, that was so close. By your expression, I think you thought that came down to traffic.
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, anybody can see that came down to traffic. And but hey, Memo did a great job. Franchitti won the race.
Congratulations on the podium.
A long dry spell as we look at second place. Memo Gidley, who has nothing to apologize for. What a great run that was. And there's Max Wilson, the early leader, right behind him. For Dario Franchitti, it becomes his 7th career win. We're hoping we're going to be able to talk to him here in just a moment if he can make it all the way back in. It ends a 29-race dry spell for Franchitti. Oh, what a race that was. Dario Franchitti taking the win, holding on and running out of fuel on the very last lap, probably running out as he crossed the finish line. There's the unofficial result. Gidley gets that extra point for the most laps led. Let's go to Gary Gerould.
Dario Franchitti blowing kisses to his crew. I know it's such a giant relief, but when this day started and you're 14th, how did you assess your chances? And then I want to know, how did you assess them when you had to get that splash and you were at the back of the field?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was thinking when we were 14th, we got a reasonable chance. And in the first corner, we went back to last there. I was trying to avoid all the accidents. And no, it was just a great job all day from the team. I didn't expect this. We're making great fuel mileage with a Honda engine. And the guys at Team Green did a great job in the pits. And I just drove it as quickly as I could all day.
How concerned were you about fuel? Because Barry Green was biting his fingernails down to nothing.
I think it says 0.06 or something on the dashboard. There's not a lot in there. I was concerned. They were saying, you know, Memo's catching you, Brian's this close behind you, save some fuel. And I'm thinking, how am I going to do that? You know, and it was there was some pressure on there, but it was a great victory for Team Co-Green.
Well, a magnificent piece of hardware comes in for your race winner here, and we've got another different winner, Jan.
Yes, and Memo Gidley's visor here is pretty clean because he spent most of the day at the front of the field. But Memo, you knew you had to make that third stop, then you had to play catch-up. Was this win decided when you had the 2 cars, what, Kanaan and then Andretti, where you had trouble getting by?
There was a number of cars out there that took me a little while to get by. Cost me a second here, a second there, but, you know, that's racing. You know, guys aren't going to get out of my way, and down the road, I guess I'll have to just repay the favor. But I'll tell you what, Team Target gave me a great car. Chip Ganassi, it's great running for this team. It's like an awesome team. I can't wait to do some testing.
But tell me, leading for as long as you did, just out there leading, I mean, did you have to pinch yourself?
I was pushing all the time. I mean, I really thought this was my race. You know, it felt like, you know, the go-kart race 4 years ago or 3 years ago. I mean, I really felt like this was my race. And, but yeah, for a while, you know, every corner I go, my God, I'm going to finish second. And I'm like, I got to keep pushing. I could get first, you know, so it was overwhelming.
Great job.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Team Target.
Yeah, they made for one terrific battle all the way to the finish. And here are the points as a result of this run here today, with Franchitti and DeFerrin both taking an enormous jump in their point standings. Parker, couldn't ask for one any better than that.
Well, we knew it was going to be spectacular. The track is wide, the passing furious. Great runs from Franchitti, Gidley, Herta, DeFerrin, and the rest of the crew from Kart Racing.
The next run for the Kart FedEx Championship Series is the Molson Indy Toronto. Next ABC race, of course, the Michigan 500. But 2 weeks will be in Toronto, Canada. For more, log on to ESPN.com.